Welcome, guys, to another edition of the Cover 2 podcast. I'm Jared Smith.
And I'm Nenad.
And it is Tuesday evening. We typically come to you guys on Wednesdays, but our schedule was a little off this week, so we wanted to come to you a little early with some news going on. A lot going on in the NFL. Week 1 of the preseason is coming up this week. We had some blockbuster trades in Major League Baseball to kind of prep some teams for the postseason. So we want to go over that. And then towards the end of the podcast, Nick and I are going to give you a few of our thoughts as week 1 of the preseason gets underway. But what we really wanted to get started with is, of course, my Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
It seems like they're always in the spotlight and always in the news. And whether it's good or bad, listen, we're going to talk about it. So, for those of you who don't know, the Cowboys have a few contracts and a few players that they are trying to lock down for the foreseeable future. In one, Dak Prescott, their starting quarterback, and Amari Cooper, their starting wide receiver, who they traded for last year, and of course, Ezekiel Elliott, arguably the best player on their roster. So before I get started, being the resident Cowboys fan, I want to get Nick's thoughts on the news that came out this morning that the Cowboys have contract offers out to all 3 of these players. Nick, where do you think things stand right now, seeing as none of these players have been willing to sign these contracts, nor do they seem happy with the offers that they've been given?
Yeah, it's kind of weird in some instances that every single one of these guys is a little disappointed with their contract offer, because we were talking off camera, this rumor that we're hearing that these offers are in the top 5 for each position as far as how much these guys are going to get paid. Dak and Amari Cooper, in my opinion, do not deserve to be paid the highest in the NFL. They aren't the best at their position. And if you want to argue with me for that, you're going to have to come up with some really good analytics, because most people would say that an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady or a Drew Brees or even a Philip Rivers is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. And there's a little different, a little more guys on that list possibly just coming off the top of my head. Those are some guys I can think of that have more clout in the game and have done more in their careers to earn the type of money that Dak
winning Super Bowls helps that.
Of course, yes, and Dak has been unable to do that. Amari Cooper, I think we both would agree as well that he does not deserve to be at least the highest paid wide receiver. Definitely in the top 5, though he does. And then there's Ezekiel Elliott, and we said on this podcast last week, I believe it's actually the last one we released.
Yes,
we said that Zeke deserves to be paid, and that there is the chance that he will not play until he gets paid. Well, 9-10 hours ago, there was a report from, I believe it was Adam Schefter, that said that Ezekiel Elliott is not going to play unless he gets this contract extension. And you were telling me that Zeke still has technically, 2 years left on his contract?
Yes, he does.
So he shouldn't technically be wanting to get, or he shouldn't technically...
well, he wants to get paid.
Of course, but he shouldn't technically have to be getting paid. It's not the last year of his contract. It's a little bit different than the Le'Veon Bell situation last year. But arguably, Ezekiel Elliott is the best running back. When you look at Le'Veon Bell, he hasn't played for a full season. He's been injured a lot. And you look at Todd Gurley, he has the knee issue. You look at David Johnson, he has not shown the potential that he was supposed to a couple years ago when he had all those... when he was almost had 2,000 yards receiving and rushing. So Ezekiel Elliott probably deserves to be the highest paid running back in the league, and the Dallas Cowboys have to do that if they want him to play, now that he has come out and said that he's not going to play unless he gets that extension. So exactly. It's dire, because I believe that the Cowboys need Ezekiel Elliott to win a Super Bowl. I believe you even said that on this podcast, that you believe the biggest key to the Dallas Cowboys' success is Ezekiel Elliott. So now we'll give it to the resident Cowboys fan. In your opinion, what needs to happen? What in the next month of this preseason, what do the Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott have to do?
Right, well, listen, very simply, no Zeke, no ring. And I think it comes down to that. Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper and the rest of this offense, along with the great defense that the Cowboys have, yes, they can contend in the NFC and, potentially get in as a wild card, but the NFC is stacked and loaded. And within their own division, they have the Philadelphia Eagles, who 2 years ago were the Super Bowl champions. Carson Wentz just, got a $128 million extension. So if he can stay healthy, the Eagles are going to be a team to be reckoned with. So the Cowboys need all hands on deck. And I think the priority for this team should be to get Ezekiel Elliott done first. Even though the Cowboys technically have him for 2 more years, and a lot of people are saying, well, because they have him for that long, he shouldn't be prioritized as the number 1 guy. Well, guess what? When you are the most talented player on your team and the offense basically runs through you, then yes, that's Ezekiel Elliott. That is what he's using. That is his leverage. The reason why he's training in Cabo right now and he's not in Oxnard training with the rest of his teammates, because he knows that without him on that field, the Cowboys are not going to be able to compete, in my opinion. I'm sorry. You can win some games, but it's not going to look pretty. So for Zeke, he, like you just said, is demanding basically top dollar. He wants to get paid higher than Todd Gurley, higher than Le'Veon Bell. I have the numbers up right here. Todd Gurley on an annual average makes $14 million a year. Le'Veon Bell just above 13. I think Ezekiel Elliott is trying to break the bank. Yeah. I think he wants to get over $15 million a year. There's a few problems with that. Number one, the shelf life of an NFL running back is very, very short because of the amount of touches and carries that a player gets. And not even with that, you're blocking assignments. So basically on every single play, even if you're not carrying the ball, you're thumping a linebacker or you're picking up a blitz from a safety. So the wear and tear that running backs take on their bodies, there's a reason why their shelf life is so short. And number two, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, the owners of the Cowboys, have already come out and said they're not going to break the bank for any player. And typically when they come out publicly and say something, they mean it, regardless of if it's the right thing or the wrong thing to say. So the fact that the Joneses have come out and said they're not going to reestablish the market for any player at any certain position kind of gives a little pause as to, who's going to budge first. Is it going to be Ezekiel Elliott? Is he going to say, okay, well, I'm okay with $14 million or something around there? Or is it going to be the Cowboys who finally say, hey, we realize we can't win without this player. We need to just suck it up and pay him what he wants. So I think from an Ezekiel Elliott standpoint, there's kind of a standoff right now, and I think it's just waiting to see who's going to fall first.
Well, when was the last time Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl?
That would be 1995.
1995.
Yes, I was 5 years old.
That is a long time. A long time ago. You need to sign Zeke because you need to win a Super Bowl right now. And here's the other thing, too. And I'll let you see if you're kind of thinking the same way. Don't you think that if they don't end up signing Zeke, Dak and Cooper might be like, well, they're probably not going to, they're not going to ever budge on our offers, too, so we might want to go somewhere else. If the Cowboys aren't serious about winning Super Bowls, what are they serious about? And to simply give the guy $15-16 million.
Well, okay, so
you know what I'm saying?
I gotta stop you right there, because when you say simply giving a guy $15 or $16 million,
well, it's better than 30.
Right, but here's the thing: it's not as simple as that. Jerry Jones has no problem spending money. If there was no salary cap in the NFL,
yeah, of course,
right?
Yeah.
If you could just pay a player whatever you wanted, Jerry Jones is one of the richest owners in the NFL.
Of course.
He would pay Ezekiel Elliott $50 million.
That's not the way sports work, though. So
That's what I'm saying. There is a salary cap, and there's only X amount of dollars that the Cowboys can spend on these players. Here's the thing, for every single player, whether it's Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, or even guys like Byron Jones or Jalen Smith, who in the next coming years are going to be looking for restructured contracts as well and extensions, I think all of these players are going to the Cowboys and saying, listen, we understand that there are more than 1 or 2 guys that you need to get extended. That's not our problem.
Yeah.
It's not our fault that you decided to draft all of us in the same draft, or you decided to pick us all up as free agents or trade for us, right? They're all looking out for each other. No one's taking a discount here, right? The NFL stands for not for long, and there are no 100% guaranteed contracts unless you're Kirk Cousins. So for NFL players, even if it is my Cowboys, I don't have a problem with them kind of putting their foot into the ground and saying, whether Ezekiel Elliott or any of the other players, I'm holding out for the most money that I can get, because the shelf life for an NFL player, let alone an NFL running back, is 3 years, right? And after that, the chances of you making millions and millions of dollars on an annual basis are very slim.
Well, and Zeke has earned the right. He's played 3 years now, and he's earned the right to get his money. He has done, nothing wrong on the football field. There's been a couple things he's done wrong off the football field, but nothing major to where it's a giant issue. Ezekiel Elliott has earned his money, and he is arguably better than all of those guys on that list. Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Devontae Freeman, LaShawn McCoy. Those were the top 5. He's arguably better than those guys, or at least equal to those guys. So he does need to get paid. And if the Cowboys don't pay him, somebody else will, just like the Jets did for Le'Veon Bell.
Exactly.
So,
very, very quickly, a fan of the show,
yeah,
Ryan
we do need
Johnson.
to answer some stupid questions.
Ryan Johnson wants to know what we think about his Carolina Panthers this year. Listen, Ryan, Cam Newton, can he stay healthy? Can he be the ultimate leader of this team? We know the physical tools that he has. Will that shoulder hold up enough coming off offseason shoulder surgery for him to be able to, throw the ball down the field and kind of extend the defense? Because towards the end of last year, you could tell Cam Newton could not throw the ball past 15 yards. And defenses knew that. They zoned in on Christian McCaffrey, and the Carolina Panthers offense, in my opinion, basically went extinct. So it's really Cam Newton being healthy, being able to spread the ball around to his weapons, and then I think that team can be formidable.
I agree with him. I'm not going to get into the Cam Newton thing because he just said it. I also believe their defense is not as good as it has been the last couple of years, and their overall offensive weapons are kind of strange. They have a lot of weird wide receiver, running back hybrids, and none of them stand out too much. So it does rely almost completely on Cam Newton. So I think, like you were saying, Cam Newton will take the Panthers as far as
as far as his body will allow him to go.
Well, exactly. And the last couple of years, he has looked like a shell of his MVP season. So moving on completely to a different sport, the MLB trade deadline happened last week. It actually happened on the day we were recording our last podcast, so we wanted to see everything go through and see if there were any giant trades. And there were. And there was specifically one that kind of changed the outlook on the playoffs a little bit for the American League, and that is the Houston Astros picking up Zack Greinke. Zack Greinke made the All-Star team this past year. He has made multiple All-Star games. He's been in the Cy Young conversation before. He might have even won one. It's slipping my mind. But one of the years with the Dodgers, he was unbelievable. So I'm forgetting if he won the Cy Young that year. No disrespect to Zack Greinke. He's an amazing player. But the Astros got him at the very last second, too. Like one of those late trade deadline trades. And it kind of came out of nowhere. Not a lot of people expected a guy like Greinke to land on that good of a team that already has Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole and those 4 guys in their lineup, Bregman, Altuve, Correa, and Springer. So what the Astros did was not only did they add a starting pitcher of Zack Greinke's caliber, a guy that's been in the playoffs, he's been in big games, he's 35 years old, they added another arm to combat what, in my opinion, is the best team in the American League, and that is the New York Yankees. And a lot of people are not thinking about this when they think about this trade, because the Astros are going to win the American League West. Okay?
It's pretty much
That's just going to happen.
I mean, they're 73-40 right now.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. The New York Yankees are going to win the American League East. They just swept the Red Sox. The Red Sox, I think, have lost 9 out of 10 at this point, and the Rays are stumbling a little bit. So those 2 teams are winning their division, and more than likely, they will both get to the American League Championship Series. The Astros have 3 of the most dominant right-handed pitchers in the game, and the Yankees have a lot of right-handed hitters. That's not good for the Yankees. And in a series where those pitchers are probably going to pitch 6 out of the 7 games, in my opinion, there is a big challenge for the Yankees waiting in the playoffs, regardless of how many games they're going to win in the regular season, and regardless of how good that lineup is. The Astros now have a legitimate chance to compete with the Yankees for a World Series.
Because the Astros needed to get better. I mean, they haven't already won a World Series and been contenders for the last few years, right? You have Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, now you add Zack Greinke with Wade Miley and Aaron Sanchez. Here's my... I understand how big of a player Zack Greinke is, and I have some restrictions only because of this what keeps popping into my head, right? Zack Greinke is a great pitcher. How many teams has he been on in his major league career? Just off the top of your head, a lot.
He's been a lot. Yeah.
Why has he been traded and or you want to say released or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, if you are such a great pitcher, right? Why are you traded so often? Why don't they want to keep you, right?
Well,
he was with the Dodgers. He was with the Angels for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was with the Diamondbacks, and now he's with the Houston Astros. And I'm not sure who he was with before all of that. Why, I don't understand. Why can't he stay with a team for a long period of time?
He started his career with the Royals. He's played for the Angels, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and now was traded to the Astros. Most of the time in his career, he has just signed with other teams, and it's universally known in the MLB, the MLB world, that he kind of just cares about the money. And when he was on the Dodgers rotation, a lot of people were like, well, why wouldn't you sign back with the Dodgers? The Dodgers weren't willing to give him $30 million a year because they knew they had guys like Walker Buehler and Julio Urias and Hyun-Jin Ryu and, of course, Clayton Kershaw. So they didn't necessarily need him.
So he's chasing the money.
He is a money chaser. That doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad teammate when he gets on a team, but it does mean that he's not the most loyal guy when it comes to organizations. And I think that is the answer to your question. He cares about the money. He wants it for his family, and he doesn't necessarily care much about necessarily winning titles. Now, for the Astros case, that's probably not a great thing, but I think Greinke coming from the Diamondbacks, who were not going to make the playoffs this year, going to the Astros, being around guys like Verlander and Garrett Cole, I think that will do him good, and I don't really think it's a detriment.
Well,
it's this specific year.
To continue with your point,
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Zack Greinke chose to go to the Diamondbacks.
Absolutely,
right?
He chose
knowing that team was basically in rebuilding mode,
absolutely,
right? And so I think that plays into your argument. And so, right, if you're the Astros, you gave up a lot, right, in return for Greinke's services. And listen, if it's going to help you win a World Series, by all means, go ahead and do that. I just don't think if you're an Astros fan, you can expect Greinke, when his contract is up, or if the Astros don't even trade him if he's not really vibing in the locker room after this season is over. So if you're Greinke, I think this is the best of both worlds right now because you're still getting paid the salary that you wanted, and you have a legitimate opportunity to win a World Series. My thing is, how bad does he really want to win? Because so far, like we've said multiple times, I think he's proven that he's more about the money and less about winning. Because I don't think you go from the Dodgers, who were, potential World Series contenders, and all of a sudden you just sign with the Diamondbacks, who were going nowhere. It's just an interesting topic. So we will see, and it's something that I want to keep my eye on with Greinke. What is he? Does he plan on potentially staying with the Astros if things go well? Or is he going to say, this is only going to help boost my profile with the Astros, and if I win a World Series, I can go out and even get more money from another team?
No, exactly. And what is good for? Well, I don't know if this is good or bad for the Astros. We were talking about all this money stuff. He's actually under contract until 2021. So the Astros are not getting a rental here. They are getting a guy that they had for this year, next year, and the year after that. $32 million, I might add, on the books, and they still do have to pay guys like Correa and George Springer, if I'm not mistaken. I know Correa they have to sign. I think they might have given money.
It's not like they have the payroll of the Yankees or the Dodgers either. So that will be interesting to see how they fine tune all of these.
No, they created. I mean, they were breaking the records on the least amount they were paying guys a couple of years ago when they were rebuilding. So they have switched a little bit. I think their management is good because they are going to be a force for a while. But so Jared, I'll just ask this: do you think it's a good thing that he's not in a contract year and that he doesn't necessarily have to perform because he's still going to be getting paid by this team?
That's an interesting question. I think from the Astros standpoint, it's a great thing that he's not in a contract year because looking at his history, right? You didn't waste a bunch of prospects and players for a half of a season rental.
Exactly.
Because we probably know that Greinke would more than likely leave and chase somebody elsewhere. So the fact that they have locked down the services, and unless they trade him or, knock on wood, hopefully, unless if he gets injured, he will be out there pitching in this fantastic rotation that the Astros have. So I think this is more in the Astros ball court as far as what they want to do with him. And listen, they can go up to him and say, hey, listen, you're not going anywhere. As long as we have this rotation of pitchers that we have, we want you to be a part of it, and we will be able to contend for World Series for the next 2 to 3 years. Like, who's going to really turn that down?
No.
If management were to come to me and say
he's
that,
getting paid.
And he's getting paid, right?
Yeah.
So if he were to say, oh, let's see how this goes, and then if things doesn't go right, then maybe I want to look at being traded. If he were to say something like that, which I'm not saying he is, and by the way, just because we're saying that we think Zack Greinke is somewhat of a money chaser, doesn't mean he's a bad guy.
No, not
doesn't
at
mean
all.
he's not a great pitcher. It just from the moves that he has made in his professional career so far, he has shown that he is more about the money than about winning.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
so
clearly.
Listen, the Astros they get the best of both worlds right now, and they are looking pretty unstoppable.
And a little interesting tidbit too is that he is now he went from California, which is taxed very tough. We know that. He went to Arizona, which taxes are a little lower. In Texas, no state tax. So he's actually getting paid more being on a member of the Houston Astros,
right,
technically based on taxes. So I think it will all go all well for the Astros. That's not necessarily good for us Angels fans and a Dodger fan that has already lost a World Series to this team once with a very similar roster to boot. All right, switching topics again. This will be the last topic of the podcast. Of course, we're in the middle of preseason,
right? We got
training camp for the NFL. We're going to be talking about it a lot. But it's very, very interesting to have the first week. And of course, there's the Hall of Fame game, but not a lot of guys play in that game. But this first week, starting Thursday, we will have multiple games everybody will be playing. So we want to each give kind of 2 things we're looking for going into this training camp. I will start. My first thing, I'll just get this out of the way, of course, is to watch and see what offense my Cardinals team is going to roll out, what they will look like with the number 1 draft pick, Kyler Murray, a lot of young receivers, Christian Kirk, Hakeem Butler, Andy Isabella, Keyshawn Johnson, also mixed with Larry Fitzgerald. Of course, they have David Johnson. The offensive line, there's a lot of questions there. The defense is going to be missing Patrick Peterson. But specifically for the first week, I do want to just specifically see Kyler Murray and what he looks like against NFL defenses. Granted, some of the stars don't play in the first week of the preseason, but we will definitely get to see what is up with Cliff Kingsbury, what is up with Kyler Murray, what is up with these young receivers. So I'm very interested in that, of course. I'm sure you could have just guessed that. And I'm sure you're interested, too, to see how Kyler Murray plays as well.
I think we all are interested, and I brought up this point off camera to Nick a few days ago that, remember back when Chip Kelly took over as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he had Michael Vick, and obviously he brought his own system to the NFL that really hadn't been established at all. And for the first month or so of the NFL season, the Eagles were blowing teams out of the water, right?
Yeah.
They were definitely the most well-conditioned team. They were running up-tempo. They basically didn't huddle. They were in shotgun the majority of the time, and they were just blowing teams out. And I think primarily the reason why, not to say that they had better talent than other teams, but the other 31 teams in the league didn't really have any film to go off of because Chip Kelly was coming from the college ranks, right? And this is the same thing with Cliff Kingsbury. He's never been in the NFL before, not even as an assistant. So because NFL teams don't necessarily have NFL film to go off of, I think a lot of things obviously are going to be very new. And I think, in the very beginning, I said the Cardinals can potentially go 3-1 or even 4-1 because teams aren't going to know how to scheme for this offense.
And there's a couple of the teams they're playing early in the season aren't the top teams in the NFL.
Right.
So you're looking at a couple sketchy coordinators and a couple sketchy head coaches and stuff like that that necessarily won't be, overreacting to the Cardinals offense. They're probably going to play a mundane defense, stuff like that. And that could be to the Cardinals' benefit.
Yeah, I think when the dust settles, when we get into, midway through the season, into the second half of the season, teams have some film to go off of. And obviously there's going to be some rough patches with Kyler Murray and, of course, the head coach as well with the first time these guys are in the NFL.
Yes.
But I really want to see what this team does in some crisis, right? How do they come back from some maybe a couple losses, or if Kyler Murray goes out and throws 3 interceptions in one game, we know that he's going to throw the ball close to 50, if not more than 50 times a game. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for defenses to make plays. We'll just see if they can do that early on in the season without much film to go off of, or if it's going to take a little bit later on in the season. But I'm very interested to see what this Cardinals team does, because they are very, very young. And, listen, you bring in Terrell Suggs, who is a veteran leader of this team. You lose Patrick Peterson. Larry Fitzgerald. There are a handful of guys who have been in this league for a long time. There are a lot of young players on this Cardinals team.
It's a weird mix of rosters. I was thinking about getting New Jerseys, and I really didn't know who to get, because I was like, a lot of these guys might not be on the team. Some of them might even be cut.
Listen, do you have a Larry Fitzgerald jersey?
I do not.
Okay, that's
I do not.
Shame on you.
Only because there were players. I will eventually get a Larry Fitzgerald jersey.
That should be a no doubt.
But you gotta understand that the University of Phoenix. No, sorry, excuse me, State Farm Stadium. I screwed up the name too. God, I'm such a Cardinals fan. The State Farm Stadium is filled with Larry Fitzgerald jerseys. I want to go in there with a jersey that a lot of people might be like, oh, that's a cool one. I should get that one.
Right, but I mean, like 30, 40 years down the road.
I have to show off a little bit, and then I'll eventually get the Larry Fitzgerald jersey.
All right, and a Patrick Peterson.
It will be on my wall.
You have to have Pat Pete. Patrick Peterson to Larry Fitzgerald.
Patrick Peterson the last couple of years has been a little sketchy with the Cardinals. He asked for a trade. He gets suspended.
Hey, listen, the first 5-6 years of his career, he has been nothing but a pro, and I think him with Larry Fitzgerald, you can't get any more Arizona Cardinals than that there.
No, exactly. Kurt Warner jersey isn't bad either, or Carson Palmer jersey too. But no, the only reason I don't have that is because I don't think I would wear a Larry Fitzgerald jersey. I think I would hang it on my wall, like NFL teams do.
That's fine.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't need that right now.
That's fine.
I'll take the guys that a lot of people don't know, so I look a little different. I got to show off when I get this.
That's okay.
But nonetheless, so let's switch. Speaking of showing off, my other note to look for in week 1 of the preseason is how the dynamic of Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry is going to work with the Browns. Now, again, the playbook is going to be condensed, right? So we're not going to see the full Odell Landry effect with, of course, Baker Mayfield and the collection of running backs. But just to see those two guys play, the two former teammates, I'm excited about that. That will be one of the preseason games I definitely check out, at least the first quarter of that game. The rest of that, I care less. But to watch those two guys play, the dynamic of that is my second thing to look for in the preseason. Jared, what are you looking forward to?
Mine, unquestionably, has to be the team that is featured on Hard Knocks this year.
Oh, yes.
And that's actually airing tonight, by the way. That's the first episode of Hard Knocks, as the Oakland Raiders and head coach John Gruden, a.k.a. Chucky, lead the Raiders in their last year in Oakland before they move on to Vegas next year. I'm really interested to see with all the dynamics. I mean, you have Derek Carr, and all offseason, the Raiders were bombarded with questions about whether or not Derek Carr was going to be their franchise quarterback going into the future. And, many people in the organization just kind of pulled back and said, he's our starter for now, which kind of, in my opinion, says they don't have much confidence in him moving forward. So they trade for Antonio Brown, right? You get Tyrell Williams off of the Chargers. You draft Josh Jacobs in the first round. So this offense has weapons. We'll see if John Gruden can kind of open up his playbook a little bit, because he's very much old school in what he does. He likes to run the ball. He obviously loves tough physical defense, but he's not necessarily an air raid offense as opposed to a Cliff Kingsbury or a Sean McVay. So we'll see if he can kind of update his offense and make sure that his star players are being well received by the team. So that's really what I'm looking for. The second thing is with the Kansas City Chiefs. And listen, we all know how great Patrick Mahomes was in his first year in the NFL. We all know about Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, all those things going on. And then, of course, in the offseason, you have the dynamic of the Tyreek Hill situation where he's under investigation for hitting his child. He has had previous allegations against him in college, going back to differences with him and his girlfriend. So he is not going to be suspended by the NFL. But I'm very interested to see how this team comes out and how they play. We'll see, is that going to affect the Chiefs team, or are they just going to say our talent is going to overshadow all of that and we're not going to let that be a distraction? So I want to see how this team comes out and performs, even though, like you mentioned, in the first preseason game, you don't really see many of the starters. maybe they play 1 or 2 series, but you're not really playing a quarter or definitely not a full game. But I want to see from a dynamic standpoint how this team responds, right? There's a lot of pressure on this team, just on the field as well. You know, it's basically for them kind of Super Bowl or bust. So we'll see how they come out week 1 of the preseason. We'll see if these young guys can jump on board and you know, step up to the plate.
Showing that Hard Knocks is going to be really fun for me to watch, and then also to watch this team that has a lot of new guys, and then you're adding cameras and all that stuff. That's a whole other element of this whole thing. So not only will I literally be watching the inside stuff with this team, but to watch them on the outside, knowing that they're getting filmed, is a little different.
I mean, that has to be an interesting dynamic. I mean, listen, you know, there's the Hard Knocks. There's been the Madden curse, and this one really isn't much of a curse, but I was kind of going back and doing a little bit of my own research, and all of the teams that have been on Hard Knocks in the last 5 or 6 years, they've been pretty awful that season, right? So I don't think that has anything to do with cameras following them around all day. I don't think the other 31 teams in the league get any extra beneficial, you know, film on them or anything like that. I think it's just, it is a lot of pressure, right? You're going through training camp. I don't care if you're Antonio Brown or Derek Carr, who has spots solidified, or if you're an undrafted player trying to make the roster. When you have cameras following you 24/7 for over a month, whether you're going to practice, whether you're going home, literally where they're going to the bathroom, if there's any you know, footage or anything that the Hard Knocks crews can get to make this season better, they're going to do that. So, you know, John Gruden has been on Hard Knocks before. His brother Jay Gruden, who's the head coach of the Washington Redskins, has been on Hard Knocks before. So we'll see, you know, how much they really let us into what they're trying to do. But I'm very, very excited.
Well, Gruden knows TV, right?
That's true.
He was on ESPN. He did his little quarterback camps. He knows how to be on TV. And he knows specifically, I don't think we'll have any problem with cameras being around. It's the guys, it's the rookies, it's the young guys, it's the guys that have never experienced that. I don't even think a guy like Antonio Brown will have difficulty having cameras follow him around as well. He's done reality shows with LeBron James and stuff like that too. So, you know, it's more those young guys that are trying to make the team. Once they make the team, you know, then they're not really famous. Like, they're not on TV anymore at that point. Then it's back to football. Right. So
it is cool to see, though, because, listen, there are so many players. There are 90-man rosters on every single team in the preseason, right? So there's a lot of players and a lot of guys who you haven't heard of. And I think Hard Knocks does a great job of always selecting a few players that no one knows about and kind of shining them in the spotlight, talking about their background, how they got into the NFL, and really, you know, giving them a chance, an opportunity, even if they don't make it for the Raiders. And listen, I think this is something that many people don't think about. For all players, you know, the players that are on the 32 teams for preseason, this is basically a tryout, not only for the team that you're on, but for all the teams as well. Because at the end of the day, right before the NFL season starts, every team has to trim their roster from 90 to 53. Right? So there's
and only 46 can play every single
There's
week.
over 1,000 players that are going to get cut. So, you know, whether you're putting on film for the team that you're currently playing for, or potentially, you know, a job interview for the future, it's high stakes, it's full go, and, you know, like I said, I'm excited to see these young guys, as well as the Derek Carrs, the Antonio Browns, and, you know, of course, Mr. Chucky, John Gruden.
Yeah, and there's plenty of other teams that we could mention here. We just didn't want to go on for 20, 30 extra minutes. But, you know, so those are the 4 main ones that we're looking forward to. And, of course, you know, we'll be back next week talking about what happened with those scenarios, if there was anything that was there to talk about. And then, of course, you know, any other preseason storylines that come out of that first week, big injuries, stuff like that.
Yeah, listen.
And we haven't seen any giant injuries yet, so knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
There's wood right here. There's wood right there too.
Many.
Yeah, we haven't seen many yet, but that is, you know, when that usually happens, when it will, we will have to talk about it.
Think about this very quick, and this is how we're going to end the podcast.
Okay, here we go.
From now until February, there will be football every single weekend.
Yes.
High school, college, and professional football. Get your hats on. Get your popcorn ready.
Oh, no,
I'm excited. This is my, you know, getting close to my favorite time of the year. This is almost like Christmas coming up, right? This is almost like Christmas Eve that just lasts for a month long. But I can't wait. We've got a lot of football coming up. And on our shows in the future, we're going to have a lot more, you know, football being talked about here. So if you are a fan of football specifically, let us know what you want to talk about. If you have a favorite team, let us know.
Well, our friend Ryan Johnson did it today too.
Right.
He wanted us to talk about the Panthers. We will talk about your team. Probably not super extensively because we're not doing the research.
It depends on if we like him or not.
Well, yeah, that too, exactly. But if you want to ask us a question, you're watching right now, you're watching on YouTube later, go on our Facebook Live feed or go on our YouTube page and comment what you want us to talk about. We'll talk about it.
Exactly.
We might not, like I said, we might not be able to go super in depth because we want to keep these podcasts short and we don't do research prior to the team you're talking about. But we still will talk about it. We like talking about football and we will do it. And then make sure, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be releasing a huge kind of preview show as well. We're going to try to get guests on to talk about that with us and to have a really, really good, fun conversation and stuff like that. But for this week's podcast, we are done. I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And this has been the Cover 2 Podcast.
See you next week.